we have today? Who do we have today?
So we have Regina Young. She is the Democratic primary for Pennsylvania House of Representatives, District 185.
Hello, hello, hello. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining us today. I know your schedule is very busy. You're out there campaigning, and people are out there preparing to vote if you haven't already, with the mail-in ballots to taking away some of the walk-in voting polls. Let's talk a little bit about what the campaign first. Let's talk a little bit about your platform. I want to do that because I want to be able for you to actually introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your campaign, and then let's talk about what that campaign trail is for you and how that's happening for you right now.
Okay. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk about my platform and share a little bit about who I am, why I'm running, and what I look to accomplish as the next state representative for District 185. So, first, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I am a community activist. My work just really started with me just having a child who was extremely curious, asked a lot of questions about the environment, the neighborhood, and what he thought about it. So, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I just really wanted to make sure that I created an opportunity for him to see what his investment could look like in the community. So that's the that's the basic level of the work. I will say my educational background is I do have a bachelor's in communication with a minor in sociology. I have from Eastern University with community development, urban studies program, and an honorary doctorate in divinity. So I'm a former fourth grade teacher, former social worker, HIV counselor. So all of those experiences. Oh, and I founded my own nonprofit, Empowered Community Development Corporation. So I would say all of those paths led me to this particular journey, and my major platform is judicial reform, creating and providing shared and fair resources throughout the district for the underserved and immigrant population, along with making sure that no safe injection sites happen in our community, and then also workforce development, and that pretty much sums it up.
One thing that has been you know very something that's trending in the not only the media right now but in the city right now, as is the unrest, the revolting. I refrain from calling it riots, right? Because that's a whole nother discussion, right? So I won't call it right, but I'll call it civil unrest. There are a lot of people that are hurt. What's your take on um and running right now for as a state rep? What's your position to potentially come in and quell, or have it take to mediate this whole situation?
That's loaded. That's loaded simply because being a woman of color and having color and a male child of color, my background in advocacy speaks to passion and a yearning to ensure that I am being on the front lines of addressing these social ills, right? However, as a candidate, understanding that we're operating within a system, we have to choose our words and our approach a little differently. So right now as a candidate and right now as an advocate, I firmly stand on where my knowledge base is. And right now my knowledge base and my passion and my movement and my approach to this is purely coming from a community advocacy side. And I just resigned and I resigned from the mayor's office of education. So I do have a sense of leveraging political power and political understanding. So my my approach, and I would say one of my priorities in going into government would be to have laser focus on how we can, on a system level, social in these underserved communities. Part of the issue is we have people that we um, don't necessarily resonate with the problems that are occurring and the situations and the connections that are occurring in our underserved and disenfranchised community. Yet they keep staying in place. As an advocate, I will say part of it is our responsibility to take back what we need to have. Stop putting ourselves in positions where we are receiving what people want to give us. You take what you need to have, and we need to be empowered as a people. And I think because I do come from such humble beginnings, I am definitely one of those people who can help propel that message and empower our people. We're broken in so many different ways, and so we need to start uplifting movement and through organized action. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
No,
Okay.
you did, and I appreciate that. That was a great answer because when it comes to We Talk Weekly, one thing that we pride ourselves in is keeping it 100, so to speak, right? And I appreciate that you are able to give two sides, not just the political side, but was able to be real enough to tell me your background and you having a son that who looks like me, which is very important to me when it comes to people who um, will garner my vote and that I know will have my best interests in people who look like me, who have been under resourced and or face the disparities, right? And so I want to jump right into your running. The person who you're running against. One thing that you mentioned, the Donatucci family has been representing the district since 1977, 43 years. I want you to talk a little bit about the importance of that, but also why you chose to point that out.
for such a time as this, right? We keep talking about how underserved our communities are and how unrepresented um, the laws, the legislation, and the facelessness that's occurring in leadership. Well, this is why, because we keep reelecting without questioning. We keep allowing the machine is known in the political world to say, well, no, this is, you shouldn't do this, or you should do something else. I'm not from Philly. If I talk long enough, you'll hear my accent. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut. And so I would say being here, living here for years, being able to start off as a grassroots organizer, starting my own nonprofit, working for the Mayor's Office of Education, and under the community schools model. And the community schools model has been around for over 20 years, and Philadelphia has only had it for a little over 4 years. If you research Tilden Middle School, where I was the coordinator, we are one of the top community schools nationally, and we're only 4 years old under an initiative of a model that's been around for over 24 years. And the reason why were so successful is because the principal in me is this principal skill set as an educational leader and my skill set as a community organizer were able to quickly identify how to improve a neighborhood public school right here in Southwest Philadelphia. So I will say that I want to make sure we all understand you. So, okay, this is the community person to me. You're the only one who's able to stop what you're able to do. We continue to listen to all these negative messages, of course you're going to be distracted. Of course, people are going to cheer you on until they think you're trying to rise above. So if you are doing it for the applause, your motives are wrong. You're always going to be stopped, and because you need the applause. But if you're doing it for personal development, and if you're making strides for success based on who you believe you are at the core, nothing can stop you. This race is bigger than a Donatucci's. It's me letting the political machines know, these powerful political families know, you don't write my destiny. I don't care what your legacy tells you or your money tells you. You don't write your legacy because you didn't create me, so you can't tell me how far I can go. So this movement really is about that. I'm showing you, doesn't matter your educational background or where you start out when you were born. You can do exactly what you want to do. Stop listening to the negativity because it's always going to be out there. So you have to determine which voice you're going to listen to the most.
So, in your approach, you mentioned that building community really starts with one conversation at a time. And in the community, something that's always been a struggle has been community policing. How do we bridge the gap between the African American community, the Black community, and our police? Because you know that there's always been a history of tension between Blacks and the police, and in general. So how do we start that conversation, and what, I guess, policies would you suggest that would change possibly the relationship between police and our community?
So, two things. As an advocate, still sit on the police community advisory or police advisory committee, right? So that's with our local police district. And I do believe in conversations build communities because you don't understand. Politicians, especially candidates as myself, if you're trying to get elected, want the vote. So we'll go in, headstrong on this is what we're absolutely going to do. And then people get in office and you come back to them as a voter and say, well, what happened? I thought this is what you were absolutely going to do.
Mm.
The piece that isn't oftentimes talked about is if you don't understand how to navigate a system and change it, then you won't be able to change it. And there's so many nuances to policing, community policing, politics, to city, state, and federal, even as so many different nuances as community try to connect. So, in terms of policy, absolutely it will be paramount for me to try to figure out how can we bridge the gap. Today is Saturday, so we had a community advisory meeting on Wednesday, and I asked that very same question with the complete with the climate as it is right now. How can a community, and I asked this of my so who was on the phone, community help support the message that we see in you as a 12th district police? A direct question. It was like 4 police officers on the call. Nobody had an answer. As a community member, I can say, oh, well, yeah, I support my local police because they look like me, they talk to me, they call me, they make sure that I'm engaged. But I realize not a lot of people are engaged. You automatically see somebody as an enemy. But I know certain officers who look like me, who struggles because blue and black, blue and black, they also have a disconnect there too. So many different pieces that we have to first try to understand before we break down. This whole we've been talking about no tolerance and police brutality. And how many times have you heard a politician say, well, we are adamantly going to stand against that? And look at us today, Philadelphia today. So we have to do a realistic approach. What does it look like? And these demands, and you do this. How we fat? We got to teach people how to be more use a humanistic approach. We all bleed in red. Your skin color does not dictate you being better than I am. But guess what? Unfortunately, I mean, we're all in here. Look at 45. 45 is actively causing a disconnect with us, right? So it's really starting off with the conversation. And I think it's important to make sure that we work within the systems that we can control. Locally, we have more control than nationally. So work within that. It starts with those police officers we see walking the beat. and then it goes up to that captain, then it goes off to the police chief. So it has to build to that. And far too often, we are people, the people in blue who look like us, we give them the brunt of it. And they're like, listen, we're dealing with it too, but we have to be silent. So how the community have to come together and demand that happening from their people. So I know in the district in which I live, the group of us vocal community members, we went to the police district because they changed out all of the brown looking police officers. So what's up with that? How come there's not a lot of brown police officers in our district? But it wasn't just Regina going; it was a group of us, and he realized we meant business. So we demanded answers, because if you want responses from us in the streets, you better make sure that you are holding. We're going to hold you accountable. You better be prepared for what that looks like. You're not going to become locking up our brown brothers because they on the corner. So what? In the Southwest, there's a lot of immigrants. Traditionally, that's what they do. They congregate on corners because that's how they commune. So culturally, you're going to change that because it's a threat when you see brown people in the corner. No, we're going to have to change that narrative. But it's the community to inform our local police so that it can spread throughout. And then the goal is to make it come more national. But everything stops at the communal level. I'm sorry if that was a long answer, but.
No, not at all.
Perfect.
You sound just like a politician now. I love that energy that you're giving me right now. Go ahead, Sparkle.
No, you made it, and just to say about how you have our brown brothers on the street corners, Italians do it too, and it's culturally something that you see them with the sitting at the tables and chairs, communing. But you spoke on 45, and you said about how he's creating division within our country, and he said something that Sizzle hit on her Sizzle report. It was pretty much, he tweeted out, when you start looting, you start shooting. And then in the Sizzle, she talked about how Killer Mike is talking to the Black and brown community, that we need to embrace our First Amendment rights and to, prepare ourselves and arm ourselves and get educated on it. But my question to Sizzle, and now to you, Regina, is that how can our protectors, which is our Black and brown men, usually, how can they go out and register for these arms of guns and rifles when they've already been penalized in the justice system, with felonies and things like that, where they aren't even eligible? It's not even something that they are able to do. What's your response to that?
I'm sorry, you see me. My husband's looking across from me smirking because he's eager to hear my response too. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I just think they made it extremely complicated for us to for them. Okay, so they made it complicated for us to ensure that we're protected by the First Amendment, but it's not impossible. And I have to be honest. I mean, Second Amendment. So we need to make sure that I don't have a quick answer, but I will say Steve just told me, he sent me something. He's like, George Wallace should not work to get your record expunged is his response to that. It's his community. So yeah, work to get your record expunged. Now, one of the things that I will be transparent in saying, I know I'm a candidate, and often we say, can you hear me?
Yes.
So one of the things I will say is, we will say, we will have these quick answers. But if I don't, then if I have to say I have to find out and figure it out, that's what I will do. So I don't mind having people around me to help me figure it out, because I don't have all the answers. So my administration is definitely going to be a myriad of just different voices from different experiences, because I don't know. I'm not a Black man in America now. I'm married, I'm raising one, but his experiences look different than mine. Only thing I need to know is, how can I best support, and how he can achieve, or they can achieve, what they need to ultimately achieve. So getting your record expunged is an approach.
Yeah, and that's definitely fair enough. And again, I was married to a black man and raising a black son, and my son, who the first time I bought him his car, got pulled over by South Jersey police and had weed in the car, and it was like, now weed is now considered to the point where, oh, a certain amount of size doesn't consider a felony now, but now it's staining his record. And now these black men don't even have the resources or know where to go. It's not even something that's being brought to them to say, okay, we're going to help you expunge, we're going to do this, we're going to do the paperwork. I think that as a community that we need to start to get together to create these resources for these type of problems that stagnate what the growth is in our communities, opposed to trying to have those people that are dealing with this to try to figure it out. But thank you definitely for that response.
Yeah. So
No,
great.
absolutely. I like that. I will say, so as a legislator, the expungement piece, you're right. It should be more in the community, heard more, but to your legislator and make sure that they advocate for that, because advocacy is where that's where it is. The bottom line of a state rep is to bring the concerns of the community straight to Harrisburg, and the goal is to not come back until you have some responses from the people to give to people. So that will be this advocacy piece is really big.
Fantastic, fantastic. We only have a couple more questions because I know you have a busy schedule and we gotta let you go. But I do I will be remiss. We okay. So although I'm biased to any black woman talking about advocating and supporting black men, I'm always biased to that period, right? But I would be remiss to not play devil's advocate, right, and talk a little bit about the Donatucci family being in a position in politics so long, right? One can say and debate you to say, well, we've been here, we've been laying the groundwork, we've been working hard for so long. You're just coming in. What makes you in a better position to advocate for that community better than us?
That wouldn't be their response because I'll eat them up. If that's the
Okay.
best you can do in 43 years and we're still here, disenfranchised, broken, you should have gone a long time ago. And as a community advocate, if I can make the imprint in the work I've been able to do thus far, just as a community advocate, I can only blossom as a state rep. So, and they're and then they've been there so long, effectiveness. So the Southwest and the district of yesterday was completely different. It's clear where all the resources are being given in the district, and so it's not given to people who live in communities that look like mine, but it definitely looked like the resources are given to the communities that look like where she currently lives. So knowledge is power. Our people just need to wake up and stop being so scary. So this one thing I say often when I do like my public speaking, and that is we are the children of those who chose to survive, right? Our people, those of us whose ancestors crossed the transatlantic, who endured slavery, who endured like segregation, that passion for our people to survive, for us to be in this particular moment, we better not allow them to die in vain. We better fight with every ounce of energy, passion, talent, and skill we have, because we need to let them know you suffered through all of that for a reason. So it's our responsibility to remind our fellow people we were born as warriors. So we need to execute that. We need to channel the spirit of Fannie Lou Hammer again.
Oh, no problem. Well, there you go. Regina Young, before we let you go, why don't you tell everybody how they can vote, how they can get in contact with you, what do they need to do, all that good old stuff.
Well, I will say, even if you don't live in Colwyn, my area is Colwyn, Sharon Hill, Darby Township, Ward 1 and 2, Southwest Philly, and South Philly, pieces of South Philly. But those are my areas. And if you go and you vote, whether you do it online or if you go to the polls, if you see Regina Young button number 16 in Philadelphia and 18 in the county, just push the button. A vote for Regina is definitely a vote for the people. And I will say, I can also be reached on my website, which is www.reginayoung185.com. Friends of Regina Young 15 at on Facebook, and ryoung185 on Instagram, and Regina Young 185 on Twitter. And June 2nd, vote June 2nd.
No doubt. Make sure you vote June 2nd. We Talk Weekly is nonpartisan, but like I said, I'm biased to anybody that's talking about giving resources to those who lack those resources, who looks like us, who looks like We Talk Weekly, and is talking about giving a voice to those who are voiceless. So without further ado, I wish you the best in your endeavors, and you got to promise to come back after this election.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
No problem at all.